Hello, my name is Ishmael McKinney, and I will be discussing the idea of embracing difficulties in the classroom. Anyone who is entering the teaching profession is a brave individual. Not only are they willing to endure the challenges they will face as an educator, but more importantly, are willing to endure the struggles of students and help them overcome. My presentation today is based primarily on the book Make It Stick: The Science of Successful Learning by Peter C. Brown, Henry L. Roedinger III, and Mark A. McDaniel. After viewing this presentation, you will be able to identify and discuss desired difficulties, identify and discuss learning styles and common misunderstandings related to learning practices, list different tactics for retrieval practice in the classroom, and identify memory cues for learners. It's been common educational theory for years that students receive and process new information differently. The theory is that students prefer to learn kinesthetically through touching and doing, visually through visual materials, or auditory through learning. Additionally, it's been long believed that if a student is to receive instruction through a style outside of their preference, that they will be at a disadvantage. Dr. Joseph Kim is a professor at McMaster University in Hamilton, Ontario. He is one of many who dispels the myths of learning styles based on the fact that there is no scientific evidence that supports the claim. Instead, many believe that learning through a preferred style creates an expectancy of ease, which in turn produces low results when testing after learning through the preferred style. In addition, Harold Pashler and Doug Rohr write that the evidence supporting the learning styles concept is weak. There are more studies that counter the initial claim. What often happens is two groups will learn the same material in one style, although they have differing preferences. After doing so, they will score better because it's more about what you were learning and not how you were learning it. You wouldn't want to learn calculus in a pure lecture form, nor Spanish just from pictures. A big issue with relying on the learning style theory is that it creates an idea of ease when it comes to learning. This is part of the reason why the students don't test as well. The easier something is to learn, the less you'll be able to retain from it. This is why Robert and Elizabeth Bjork coined the term desired difficulties. Desired difficulties are those inconveniences faced that create slow learning but in turn make learning stronger. They trigger encoding and retrieving processes that support learning, comprehension, and remembering. The difficulty, however, must be something that the learner can overcome through much increased effort. The goal is long-term learning, and desired difficulties support this goal because they slow learning. Typically, students prefer to make the connections quicker and be able to move on. They focus more on the idea of performance or fluency if tested immediately, rather than focusing on full comprehension. It'll seem as though you are constantly revisiting a covered topic, but you want to fully immerse the student in the topic in an effort to ensure they are truly learning and not just trying to rely on short-term memory to spit it back out for a test. I have done a lot of paraprofessional work in schools over the past 6 years. Something I hear constantly doing my work within inner city schools is how teachers, who may not be able to relate to their students' backgrounds, tend to tailor their expectations for the students. Usually, the students are already counted against for many reasons, and this in itself is a desired difficulty. Instead of counting the students out and expecting less from them, you should give them the tools to succeed so they can rise to the challenge and not only reach your expectations, but go above and beyond them as well. A major tool all students need, even students in college, is the ability to study effectively. Learning is a lifelong process, and the things we struggle with the most are the things that are easiest to recall. To help with this process, students should be equipped properly with the following tools. Retrieval practice is a learning method focused on recalling information from memory, which is a sign of strengthening the learning process. Retrieval is a great learning strategy and should not just be used for measurement through testing. Using retrieval helps to identify gaps and assist in identifying areas that are unknown. Known subjects are solidified in long-term memory, and they believe that the struggle to recall improves our memory. Matched practice is the idea of cramming or any other short fire method. These methods primarily rely on short-term memory. Long-term memory requires the learner's brain to connect the new information to prior knowledge while also giving meaning to the new information. Long-term memory is developed through the retriggering of this process after a small period of forgetting. This process done repeatedly strengthens memory. Teachers and students both sense the slower learning speed from that of mass practice when it comes to interleave practice. They recognize the understanding of each element is coming more slowly, but often ignore the long term advantage of the teaching strategy. The idea is to take information that you have blocked together and disperse it in pieces, whether it's in a series or randomized form. The practice performance won't show great results. However, the test performance will show the effectiveness as it takes some time. Varied practice requires the learner to use different tasks and methods which center around an initial topic to help strengthen the ability to develop that skill. A good example will be a golfer who is perfecting his swing. Instead of only practicing at a driving range with the driver, he practices different shots with different clubs. This creates a base swing but allows the ability to adjust as necessary. There are also some tools you should equip your students with that enable them to control their own learning and truly master the art of studying. Mnemonic devices are mental tools to help hold material memory and be able to immediately recall them later. I'm a bit of a neat freak when it comes to my closet, so I use the Roedinger acronym for the colors of the rainbow in an effort to help organize my closet. Another example is a memory palace, which is a more complex type of mnemonic device that is useful for organizing and holding larger material. It's based on associating mental images with a series of physical locations to help spark recall. On average, if a professor was to ask a question in a large lecture hall, it would take about 4 seconds of no one responding to the question before the professor gives the answer. Generation is when you allow a learner to attempt to solve a problem before showing the answer or how to solve it. I have used this when introducing multiplication and division to younger students to show them how they are doing nothing more than simply repeated addition and subtraction, respectively. They are always wild, and it seems to give them the confidence to complete the problems on their own based on their newfound connection between the two topics. Elaboration is finding additional layers of meaning in new material. Like my previous example, is the idea of taking a concept they already know, addition or subtraction, and applying it to something new, multiplication or division. You could even use elaboration similar to a memory palace by relating a new topic to a metaphor. For example, the idea of conduction from visualizing your hands being warmed up by a warm cup of tea. Dispelling the myth and not relying on the idea of learning styles is the first step of embracing difficulties in your classroom. It's a great way to ensure you're giving every student the maximum opportunity to succeed because you aren't allowing them or yourself to rely on a preference in educating them. The preference actually can be looked at as something that limits the ability of students because it's almost as if you're saying they aren't capable of learning effectively any other way. The true way to ensure your students succeed is to teach them how to study. It's not just about what they're learning, but how they're learning. While there will be bumps down the road, those bumps will help to solidify the learning. Slowing down learning is the key to long term memory. You want to space out lessons and repeat topics in an effort to ensure that long term learning and memory is enhanced, especially when you teach them how to take control of their own learning and you really give them their tools to study. Thank you for your time and feel free to check out these amazing resources for more information.